let the explosion begin. Here we are, Advanced Partners podcast series, wrapping up here in June. And you know who I got in the house today, man? This guy is the staffing sales mastermind himself from good old Florida, Dan Mori. What's up, buddy?
What is up, Shark? How you been, man? How's your summer going?
Dude, it's been a great summer so far. Besides a little bit of rain up here, but next month is my incredible because it's Shark Week, man. You know, so the third week of July, I'll be pumped, man.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I'm actually so I'm not hailing from Florida right now, man. Every summer, family and I we head up to upstate New York and enjoy the Finger Lakes region, man. There's a few areas in the country nicer than this in the summer. So yes, sir.
I've been in the Finger Lakes before, man. It's amazing. I was there for a Kenny Chesney concert. Oh, incredible.
Oh, it must have been sick. I would have loved to go into that.
Oh yeah, it was a couple land sharks and swimming in the lake. Yeah, it was good.
Nice.
All right, brother.
I'm excited to get into this. Let's chat about sales today.
Dude, this is something we got to talk about. And we always talk about AI, but right beside AI is staffing sales. So, I'm going to let you take it away and just deep dive into this modern staffing sales system and, what tips, techniques, and what's the challenges, brother?
Yeah. I actually, I want to start with the challenges because I think that right now people are under assessing, or misanalyzing, misdiagnosing what these challenges are. And I think they're responding inappropriately, frankly. And I don't want to be so frank as to say that, but everyone knows that the pandemic changed things, and that's a long time gone now. We've been through the pandemic for a few years now. And then obviously we had the major shift in, remote work. It was a massive uptick. And then we had technology and AI. And once OpenAI released ChatGPT to go mainstream, people started using it and adopting it really fast, which sort of forced all companies, not just staffing, but all companies to figure out how to do this. And once people realized how quickly they could spin anything with AI up, the tools started flying left and right. And staffing, which has historically been a little bit slow to respond technologically, has been in this whirlwind of trying to adopt things and solve problems because we're still in this long 3-year decline of staffing demand. And the first half of this year is no different, man. Like there is still a decline of staffing demand. And I think that the reason for this decline in demand is being missed by most people. And this is my opinion of everything I look at in the market. And I try to be, all things staffing as much as I can be. But this is my opinion. This was a structural shift. And it is not, this exact one is unprecedented. But as far as structural shifts in industry, especially B2B, these things happen. Business sales is cyclical. And what happens, as you and I were talking about at the top of the show here, is that businesses can sell their services to a customer so long as they're providing value to that customer. As long as they can provide that service cheaper, faster, more convenient, or with a higher quality than the customer can do it themselves, the customer will buy from the staffing agency or from the provider, right? And we were on a really good run. Honestly, we were on a great run, longer than we probably should have been in this industry leading up into the pandemic. But our industry was already showing signs of cracking. The labor market was incredibly tight. Companies were struggling to get people. And then when you had these structural shifts change, they realized that, all the tools that staffing was using over the past decade, they had access to. They could use it the same way the staffing agencies were. They could actually get people faster, quicker, better quality than what they were getting from most of the staffing providers. So by and large, the value that the industry in whole was providing sort of evaporated. Now there's some niche players out there that still provide immense value because they play in these smaller segments, or they got really kind of forward-looking tools or processes. But right now, by and large, the industry is just not responding. We're still trying to respond to those old challenges with the same old playbook, and we've not adapted. And that right there means that our value proposition is not aligned. And that right there is why we're facing buyer reluctance in today's market, and companies are choosing to go to talent marketplaces or hire themselves or look at MSPs or things like that. And they're looking away from staffing agencies. So that's the challenge that I'm seeing right now, man.
Dude, you hit it right on the head. We're not changing, Dan. We're still recruiting we're still doing sales like 2012, blast emails out and all that stuff. It doesn't work anymore. People caught on to that.
So you know what's funny, man? And I have a lot of friends that are that are vendors to the industry, right? And I talk to the relationship partners, I talk to the salespeople, and one of their biggest gripes, and I don't know if they're telling it to the clients, but they'll tell me, right? One of their biggest gripes is we have these amazing new tools and resources that we can provide to the staffing industry to make them more valuable to their client. But what they're asking us to do is basically tweak these new tools, these new technologies, these automations, these AI powered things. They're trying to basically say, hey, we want that, but just make it do the thing that we've been doing for the last decade and a half. And they're like, you're missing the mark. Like, the market no longer wants what you were doing for the last decade and a half. They want something different. And these tools can give it to you if you're just willing to change. So it's funny you say that, man, because that's what I'm hearing a ton of, is that people are just trying to take these new tools that are great and just do what they've always done with them. And it's never going to work, man.
No, we're in the biggest change in staffing, I think, in history. You know that, Dan, for sales and everything in general. I mean, I've been in for 11 years and I've never seen a shift like this ever.
Yeah, well, I've been in nearly twice as long, and I would agree with the same thing. And that's because this shift is powered by something that is not just an innovation to the employment sector. Like, this is a structural innovation to all of humanity. You know, when you're talking about AI, it's when all is said and done, AI is going to be up there with the likes of the internet and electricity and fire and the wheel, right? Like, that's the scope of what we're talking about here. So that's why, you know, we've never faced anything like this in the history of the industry.
All right, brother. So the challenges are there. So how are we going to fix this, man? How are we going to get people on this show that's listening to adapt? That's the key.
So the first thing you have to recognize is this is not going to be solved with a new sales talk track. This is not going to be solved with a new sales strategy or technique first, okay? We have to actually look internally into our agencies from a strategic level and say, hey, what does our customer want? And then how do we provide that value to them? Hitting the 3 value drivers. There's only 3. We either have to do it cheaper than the customer can do it, we got to do it faster and more conveniently than they can do it, or we got to provide a better quality then, right? But the first thing has to be operationally. Like, you just have to know, what does your customer really need you to be for them right now? And it might not be what you've been for them for the last decade. It might be something different. So that's the first step, man, is just figuring out, what does your customer need from you? Which is crazy. Let me tell you a quick story. You probably don't know this about me. When I got in this industry, it was completely by accident. I actually had no business being in this industry. You know, I didn't have any experience selling B2B. I wasn't selling, you know, a service. I really had there's no reason for me to go into this industry other than my friend approached me and was like, hey, man, I think you would do really well with this. Why don't you give it a go? I did. But because I didn't know anything about the staffing industry, and this was prior to the Great Recession, so this is going way back, right? Yeah. I didn't know anything about it. What I did, instead of just trying to create a solution and go sell it, I actually went out to 25 companies in my local market. And I literally called them up and I was like, hey, can I ask you a 1-question survey? And they were like, sure, what is it? I was like, no, can you invite me in? And I want to ask it to you in person so I can take notes. And they were like, well, yeah, what is the question? I was like, well, I want to do it in person. And they're like, and I think sheer morbid, curiosity got them. And they're like, okay. And I got 25 meetings. And this was my question. What do you need from your staffing partner? That was it. And they would go on and they would tell me all of these things and I would write them all down. And you know what I realized, man? I got 25 different answers. And I was like, how do you be all things to all people, which really is a kind of a death sentence in this industry. So my partners and I, we sat back and we started looking at the commonalities. We're like, hey, you know what? If we do it this way, if we structure our business model this way, we can actually give these people what they want. And I called all 25 of them back and I was like, hey, can I come back and meet with you and tell you what we figured out from hearing all of these people's answers? And I got those meetings and I said, this is what we're going to build. And we actually got 23 clients out of that. And they were excited about what we were building. And it all stemmed from that question. What is it that you need from a staffing partner? And I think because we're facing the magnitude of shift that we are, that's the question that agencies need to go back to all of their clients and start with. and start there and think about how do you actually deliver the value to answer that question for your clients.
You know what? You were a shark way back in the day. I got to tell you that, man. But all joking aside, you're so right on that, because I think right now these sales reps going out, Dan, they're under pressure to get the contract, and they don't do this like what you did, the research. And I think I got to be honest with you. People I talk to, the clients I got, they always say when another staffing firm comes in, they try to give me demands. They don't listen, Dan. Can you tell people out there, seriously, the first thing is listen to what their problems are?
Yeah. That's it, man. The customer will tell you. They will tell you what they need from you.
But we don't. We go in and we say we're the top staffing firm for the last 10 years. And we do that bragging instead of having a little bit of swag and let them talk.
Yeah. No, I see it all too often. And one of the things I actually see, but I think this industry, and there's probably others, but this industry sometimes gets backwards, is we try to sell the service and then fulfill the service. So a lot of times our organizations are led by what the sales team can go get, by the opportunities that they can actually produce. And then they take those opportunities back to operations, the recruiting teams, and then they dump those orders and opportunities on the desks. And then operations has to figure out how to meet that opportunity. And I think inherently that's actually backwards. I think really what needs to happen is organizations need to get really, really clear on what their unique value proposition is and who the ideal client profile is that they actually provide that value prop to, and then get the messaging straight. And then actually send your sales team out with crystal clear messaging and with the tools and the questions and all that stuff to really uncover the pain points or challenges and desired outcomes that your ideal client might be looking to achieve, and then send them out. And that way they're actually selling a service versus just trying to get an opportunity. And I think if agencies would just make that fundamental shift, they would be much more successful. But it takes a lot of work, man. Like, you have to be a legitimate staffing leader to roll your sleeves up, look inward, and kind of reinvent yourself right now. And a lot of them won't, sadly.
Okay, so here's the big question. I'm going to throw you off on this one maybe a little bit, but the big box staffing firms, I'm going to be honest with you. I see the smaller ones really kicking butt right now because they're more genuine, authentic. I think the big box ones are still in that old where I can use my name to get me the contract.
So you're not wrong. And this actually always happens during these shifts in the market like this. So we've always heard that old adage, the big corporations are like turning a battleship, right? So what's happening is these big name companies, and we've heard the big names out in the, on LinkedIn and in the news and the press releases and all the, the downsizing. And we've seen a lot of our friends that were first and second with on LinkedIn announcing that they've been let go or they've joined a new company. And there was a lot of this kind of right shifting or right sizing. I don't know what the proper term is, but a lot of that happened with these big companies over the last 12, 18 months. That's been going on because they've been turning the battleship. And while they're still mid-turn, those smaller agencies, they are more nimble. They can adapt to the needs of the market. They can pick up new tools. They can implement stuff quicker. But the ones that don't, by the time those big battleships get turned around, they are going to be the big players. They're going to be kind of pretty steady competition. So there is a very small window for those smaller kind of mid-market or independently owned agencies to strike right now and take advantage of the market share and start building those relationships. But that window is going to close because those big agencies, they've got the resources and they've been through this. Figured out, and that battleship will be pointed in the right direction before we know it. So that's my view on that.
I love it. Seriously, small dogs, get out there now, man. You only get that little bit of time, like Dan said.
That's it. The imp and chip window is closing, man. It really is. I honestly, you probably got 6 to 12 months left to go get it. But this is what's cool about this, though. Just because it closes doesn't mean you're going to miss out, right? So that you got 6 to 12 months to really go compete head to head, right? And go get new business, go take market share and start building relationships. But after that 6 to 12 month window closes and now it becomes a little bit more fiercely competitive, which people are hearing that and they're like, holy cow, it's competitive now, not for the same reasons. But once that closes, you have the accounts. Then you can build those relationships and you're going to make those big companies have to compete with you to get them back, and clients, they don't always like to switch. So this is a great opportunity for those smaller and mid-market clients to kind of rebalance the market share of the industry.
Get out there and do it. Okay, Dan, so I got a stat here. I've seen 58% sales cycle is longer this year than it was last year. I mean, we got to talk about this because everybody said they're not getting contracts on time. laying people off. What's your take on that, man?
Man, so it is true. The sales cycle is longer, and I think that just stems from a lot of uncertainty. We talked about this at the end of last year, where we actually identified that when you're going into a presidential change or an administration change, the first half of this year was going to be really turbulent. Mm-hmm. And because of that, people were going to be like, hey, what's going on? I think it was even more turbulent than people anticipated, with the things like the tariffs and how quickly they escalated, and how really the Fed did not decrease the rates, as anticipated. Like, there's a lot of kind of external market forces that just happened differently than we thought. So it's been more turbulent. But the reality is, those companies are, in that time, they're saying, hey, do I really want to give my business to a staffing agency? It's not because they don't need people, and it's not because they're not hiring, right? The labor shortage is still really wide, and the net new jobs added every month is still positive. So there's still open jobs, and they're still hiring every single month. So it's not that they don't need our services. They've just figured out that they can actually do it better on their own. And it's taking a little bit longer for them to figure it out. And this is where the buying cycle, this is probably the biggest impact to a lengthened buying cycle. And then I'll share number 2 in a second. Number 1, customers are stringing along the staffing agency while they see if they can do it themselves. Right. And then if they get to the point where they're not quite sure, then they're going to bring the agency in, but they already have people in the pipeline. So what agencies are experiencing is they're getting the contract, they're getting the order, they deploy their recruiters and resources to start submitting candidates. And then the clients will be like, sorry, we already filled it internally.
Yep.
That's happening a ton. So I'll give you number 2 in a second here.
A little sip of vodka. You're good now.
I wish. No day drinking today. We'll wait for the summit for that. So number 2 is this. Salespeople are still talking from the same track because they all sound the same, and there's a massive trust recession still going on. Buyers are starting to talk to more and more agencies, and they're trying to figure out which one is different. And they're going to look to see which one can they land on before they actually sign the contract. And because they all sound the same, it's a highly competitive pricing game. And because agencies are getting more desperate, they're actually cutting their rates more and more. And that is actually adding an extra week or 2 weeks to the buying cycle, lengthening it. So that's what's going on out there right now, man. It's sad.
It's a wild world. Do you think a lot of staffing firms are more on defense than offense these days? They're worried about, protecting, like, oh, there's another staffing firm in there, I'm worried about them, instead of just doing their own thing?
Always. Yeah. No, they absolutely are, and it's a tough spot to be in, because when you get on defense, man, in this industry, you start cutting rate.
You know it.
Because offense would be revising your value prop and revising your talk track to sell based on the value prop. But defense says, no, we got to protect what we have. So we need to start cutting rates, or maybe avoiding rate increases. And with all the inflation that has happened and the cost of business going up, that erodes margins. So what ends up happening is you actually have less money as an agency to provide the service that you've already promised to your client, which means you're likely to diminish the quality of that service. And then the client will experience that. I'm talking too much, man.
It's that sales cycle. It's choking you, man.
It's killing me out there. It's killing me. So that's what I'm seeing, brother.
And then I got to tell you, we got to line into this stuff. I mean, there's so much we can deep dive into. I mean, the social selling buzzword, Dan, I got to tell you, it's over and over again. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people I talk to, they think that's just posting stuff on social media. They don't understand it's about getting in the community. It's about building a process when you present it to that client. Can you break this down for them? Because I think this is something that everybody has that buzzword now. They're saying, I'm social selling, it's going to get me to the next level. Can we simplify that for people so they can identify it, man?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you an overview of this right now, but I will tell you, if you're watching this and you want to get a deep dive masterclass from 2 experts in the industry, next week on July 8th, we're doing a Staffing Sales Summit Encore event, free event. It's virtual. You can jump in and attend it. And we'll actually have Mike Bradbury and Alexis Mesky talking about the 2 sides to social selling. But nice. I'll give you the breakdown right now, and we'll get a link out we'll put in the comments here so people can go find that event. But social selling this is the most essential piece that updates the modern staffing sales system. So cold calling, while it's not dead, it has been declining for years. Same thing with email. All these things, you're getting diminished returns right now. They've been declining and they really can't decline anymore. They've actually gotten to such a low conversion rate that you physically can't have your sales producers just do more work and get more results because there's just not enough time, right? So that's where social selling comes in. It starts to prime the pump and actually give you a better sales funnel leading into these events. So you actually have to use social selling to tee up your calls and your emails now if you want them to convert at a reasonable rate. So social selling in its most simplest form is just getting your brand image in front of your target customer when they're actually thinking about buying, which is before they're willing to take a call or respond to an email from you, right? So it's going upstream and it's getting your brand in front of them. And if you think about this, it's not sending an email here and there. It's not posting once a week on LinkedIn. I want you to think about the biggest influencers. Whoever, if you're out there listening to this right now, think about who is the number one influencer that you can think of right now, top of the head. And Shark, who is it for you? Who's the top influencer you can think of?
Gary V, man. Come on.
Gary V. Great example. That dude is a content producing machine, right? If you actually go look at Gary V and you actually see the level of content or the amount of content he puts out, that's influencer level. Think about other people out there, that do that same thing. Grant Cardone is another one. He puts out an incredible amount of content. There's all these people, Tony Robbins, like that's the type of influencer marketing or social selling that they're doing because they're putting so much content out there. They're establishing themselves as a thought leader in their respective spaces, right? If you think about real estate investing, if you look at that, you're probably thinking Grant Cardone. If you think about digital marketing and really just being an influencer, Gary Vee is going to come to mind. So you most likely are going to have to 10x what you're doing from a social selling standpoint to get the results that you need. But that is the new price of admission, right? That's just the new way of work. That's work today, right? So there's two sides of it. When you're social selling, there is your reputation and there's reach, okay? You have to do both. I recommend focusing on reputation first, right? That's like the half step before 100%. You start looking at reach, right? But your reputation, this is your brand. This is what you want people to think about you. So, and your company. So if you're a staffing agency and you want to be known as the best agency to provide locums, or maybe the best agency to provide 3PL warehouse workers, whatever that is for you, right? Whatever you want your agency to be known for, all of your content has to align with that. So when people go find you online, they're looking at all your content, your posts, your comments, everything you're doing. And it's gonna be like, holy cow, this person is a thought leader in this space. That's your reputation, AKA brand, right? The second is reach. Once you have a rock solid reputation or a brand strategy, and I'm going to break this down a little bit further in a second, then you want to make sure you optimize your reach. You want to get your reputation in front of as many of your target prospects and target contacts as possible. And you want to expand that as wide and as far as you possibly can, right? So
real quick, Dan, break that down, because target audience, people just think they post and they want everybody. I don't want a million people. You got to have a target, right?
Yeah. So, and here's a perfect, I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is actually really good for reach. So if I wanted to sell anything, let's say I wanted to sell this coffee mug, right? Do I want to tell 15 million people, or do I want to tell maybe 10,000 coffee drinkers? If I shout it out to 15 million people, that message goes really far and wide, but it's diluted across 15 million people. And that's probably the best analogy I can give, Shark, is think about your message as a finite number, and you have to divide it by the number of people that it's going to get to. So you want to make sure that the number of people that it actually gets to are the right people, and it's a smaller audience. Smaller is better when it comes to marketing because it's more focused. So
thank you. I love that.
I think Mike Bradbury said it best, and he's going to be one of our people coming up next week when he actually showed his graphic about how he focuses on having the right people in his audience. And I'm going to actually, can I just tell a personal anecdotal story for me?
Let's do it, brother. Break it down.
So this is real. People, you can go look at my LinkedIn and you can check this out, right? So I've been building LinkedIn for a while, and I'll admit that I'm inconsistent at times, which is really probably the worst thing you can be with it. But as I was building my audience, I was not as hyper focused on who I wanted in my audience, right? I started using LinkedIn during the Lion days, the LinkedIn Open Network days, which I think that's kind of gone now. So if people sent me a request, I would say, yeah, welcome into the network, right? And I would be focused on having a big network, not really understanding the principles of this. Well, what's happened now that I've realized the importance of social selling over the last year, I've had to actually rework my network. And as I look at the core target people that I want my message to get out to that's in there, it's only about a third of my total network, right? But when I send my message out, it kind of goes out to everybody. And I don't have a lot of say on LinkedIn about where it goes unless I do a boost or targeted ads. And that costs money. And I don't always spend the money to get a post out there. So you have to be thinking about this, like, who do I want in my audience? And I would much rather have a small audience that's highly concentrated with the right people than have those same people as part of a larger audience that's going to get lost in the shuffle, right?
Brother, you summed that up perfect, man. I mean, I only got like 8,000 people, and look what I'm doing on LinkedIn. You know, I keep it very short. The ocean's nice and tight. I don't need 50,000 people swimming in my ocean, you know?
You don't need to, just the right people. So, but let's break down reach and reputation just one more level. And then anyone that wants more, just again, tune in next week for the masterclass with those two, with Mike Bradbury and Alexis Mesky, breaking it down even further. With your reputation, there really is a framework, a very simple framework that you can follow to make sure that you are putting content out the right way. It's a 3x3 is what I call it. There's 3 forms of content, and there's 3 types of messaging that you put through those content. First, simple text. It's the old-fashioned LinkedIn post. No graphic, no video, just simple text. Yes, it still needs to be part of your mix. Then you have the graphic. It's going to be a picture, a quote, something graphic image that will get people's attention. And then you obviously have your text to support it. And then the third one is video. I will tell you, it's not even close. Short form video is dominating ROI. It's
MTV, baby.
It is just so far ahead. And you want to know what number 2 is? Number 2 is long form video, and it's not even close, right?
Nope.
So if you're creating content that's a short form video for LinkedIn, that's literally your most powerful asset that you can not only repurpose just on LinkedIn, but other media platforms. So those are the 3 modalities, the 3 types of posts. And again, Alexis is going to crush teaching about this next week. You have to have something that is a service-minded post where you're actually providing a valuable service, teaching somebody something actionable, things like we cover at the Staffing Sales Summit, right? Something that your followers could get from you and be like, wow, this is really helpful. Something that's going to have them return to you, to think they're getting value out of you without having to invest anything into the relationship themselves, right? That is the best value that you can provide before you get to know them. The second, thought leadership. You're not necessarily teaching things, but you're starting to opine about your opinions or your viewpoint on the industry. You know, what's going to happen when you actually have the shortage of CDL drivers, but now you have the advent of, the trucks that are automated driving, autonomous CDL trucks. What's going to happen? You might want to talk about that. What's going to happen with, payer mix and healthcare? You might want to talk about that. Show that you are an expert in the space of the people that you're trying to get to. So that's going to position you as the thought leader, building that reputation. And then again, because LinkedIn isn't just Facebook with ties, this is actually a human to human platform. You have to show your human side. You got to show things that are about you, your interests, what you're up to. Just like the Shark mentioned that he was in the Finger Lakes at a Kenny Chesney concert. Like, people love that stuff. They're like, oh, that's awesome. And again, people do business with people they like. And if you start to show your common interests and your commonalities through the individual side, that is when you're going to know that you're going to attract more attention. So you will take those 3 types of posts and apply it to all the 3 different types of modalities. So you might have a video that just talks about you, and something you're into, or it might be a graphic post that shows thought leadership, or a text post that talks about how to do something that's valuable to your client, and you rotate that mix. You should be posting at least 5 times a week. Like that's the minimum
100%.
To build that reputation up, right? Any feedback on that before I jump into reach, my man?
No, I love that. I tell you what I think is, got to be on more platforms too. I'm going to say this right now. If you're just on LinkedIn, you're losing out, man. I mean, Facebook, Instagram for branding. TikTok. Blue Sky. There's so many of them, Dan. Yeah, you can't be on them all. But I think if you're just on, you probably agree. If you're just on LinkedIn and that's it with your brand, you're losing out, my friends.
So I will agree. So the shark is absolutely right. However, if you're not doing social selling right now, don't think that you have to start on every channel. Pick one.
Oh no.
Pick one and just start building. And that's going to help you get in the habit of it, see what works, see what doesn't work. And then once you are in a good rhythm with that, then you start, repurposing content to other mediums, right? Don't start with all of it or it will overwhelm you. If you're not already doing it, start with one. If TikTok's your thing, go all in TikTok. I like LinkedIn. That's where I live. This is my platform, but maybe Facebook is your thing. Maybe it's YouTube, whatever it is, but pick one channel and start there and dominate that and then grow outward from there.
You're right, man. You got to enjoy what you do. You got to enjoy these posts too. And I think that's something, Dan, and a lot of people, I got to tell you that when they put a post out there, they're so worried is it going to go viral or not. You can't worry about that. You got to entertain your audience. Some of the stuff that I put out there, you probably the same way. I'm like, this is quirky I'm putting out, and it just goes everywhere. And then it's stuff that you really study and you put out there as research, it goes nowhere.
That's what's up, man. Honestly, trying to create a post and having it go viral is the equivalent of trying to hit a home run every single time or trying to pick stocks, right? It's anybody's game. You're going to be a lot better off just being consistent with putting out content that is authentic to yourself, right? And then you will start to see what your audience is resonating with. And then once you see what they're resonating with, just do more of that, right? And then eventually you will hit those things that go viral. And then once you start to see that, then you can try to replicate what went viral for you, And just because it went viral once doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it again. You never know what actually catches on. So don't focus on, the virality of your posts. Focus on consistency. That's going to be the real piece there. And then on that topic, let's just talk about reach really quickly. Mike Bradbury does a great job. There is a simple way. I'm going to give you two of his pieces. And Mike, if you're watching this, man, I drop a comment in here. I'd love to see you in the chat here, but I would love to hear your feedback on this. And I don't want to steal too much of your thunder, but there's two things that he shared at the summit that were, I guess, eye-opening or mind-blowing for me. And they shouldn't have been, but they were. One, if you have Sales Nav, it is so easy. It is literally so easy to segment your market and then actually take your segmented market and filter even further by just those people that are active on LinkedIn. So if you were actually going to put your message out there, it's only going to go to the people that are active on LinkedIn, which is literally like only calling people that are waiting to take your call, right? Like that's the power of it. So that's one thing that Mike's going to talk about. But as far as reach goes, they have this method called the LCM, like, click, message. This thing is it's a cheat code for LinkedIn. It blows me away. I understand the human psychology of it now, but man, it works so well. And it worked on me. He got me this way, actually. But if you really want to get connected to someone that's in your target audience list, go look at the content they're posting, like what they're posting, put a comment on it. And the comment should not be something generic like, hey, great post. That's what the like button is actually for. Add some value to it, comment, be like, oh, this is really good. And you should either ask a question that's going to expand the conversation, or maybe add a different perspective. Like, hey, I really appreciate what you shared here. This is my perspective on it. And don't be salesy and slimy and gross like that. Just add legitimate perspective on it, do something that's going to add more value to the conversation. Right. And once you do that, and that comment, then actually go message that person directly and just say, hey, I saw your comment, or I saw your post, or saw your profile. The conversion rate to get them to respond back to you it's not even close if you just did a cold outreach message. It's insane. He ran the numbers. I did a side study on this one. It is insane how this LCM method, and he's going to go into more detail exactly how to do it with some great content behind it. But that right there is about your reach. If you just practice this message within your targeted audiences, you will have much better conversions, much better warm leads going into it. That's going to fuel the campaign. That's going to be the cold call or the phone calls and the emails and all of that stuff. So that's your reach. That packages up social selling. And
Dan, you summed it up. I got to tell you this. So just reading out of my gospel here, I do that on Facebook. Anytime there's a business in light industrial, I'd go on there and comment, Johnny won an award or something like that. Before I'm texting him. I got the meeting. They're already calling me Shark. I didn't even say hi to him yet. It's like there's a business page on every Facebook. So I tell people that's another one too. So I love that. Yeah. Give some praise out. There you go.
Absolutely, man. And like I say,
Dude, love
if
it.
you're not doing social selling this way, if this is like, oh, it sounds like a lot, it really isn't. And again, I know that I'm probably overly promoting this, but July 8th, go sign up. It's a free event, but you're going to hear it from people that are the absolute best in the industry. They were the highest rated speakers and sessions at the Sales Summit this past year in February. So definitely check it out if you want to get into social selling and you want to add it to the modern selling system, which I can cover a little bit if we've got time. But yeah,
Dude, we got all the time in the world, man. There's no watches on me, brother. It's all you, man.
so then let's show how this bolts on, because I use the term modern sales system, and people are like, well, what is that? Like it essentially is two primary things that are different than the way we used to sell. And when I say the way we used to sell, I mean basically having a list and doing cold calls and email marketing. And if you're locally, geographically, you do your walk-ins, your visits, your drops, and things like that. Maybe you mix in some networking and stuff. Like that's sort of the old way. The new way, the modern way, is going to be actually priming the pump, doing social selling like we just said. So you will actually have your target list of the people that you want to be putting into your sales funnel, your sales cycle, and you're going to be more active on targeting them using the reach method that we just talked about, right? Priming that pump, getting them set up for a phone call, getting them more likely to take an email from you, right? Things like that. So that's the first part, is just adding a real sound social selling tactic to the traditional selling method, right? The next change is going to be something that Tom Erb has talked about for years. Mark Winters talked about it for years. I know I didn't catch your session last week with Kim Henderson, man, but I'm sure it was amazing. I was on vacation, but I'm sure you guys covered this as well. But having a targeted cadence. So if you want to get a business, if you want to get a prospect into your funnel, you should know who you're going after, and it should align with your ICP. I'm not going to go too much into that one anymore. We kind of hit that one on the top.
Tell them real quick, Dan, what cadence is, because I don't know if you're probably going to elaborate, because a lot of people might not know what that means.
Yeah, I'm gonna break that down in just a second. And you're right. I don't think they do. We've got a great video on Staffing Monthly YouTube with John Rutten and Erica Koobs from Aviante. They actually did a great session talking about cadence. Tom Erb's book, Winning the Staffing Sales Game, breaks down a cadence. But really, all a cadence is, it is a planned series of steps for outreach towards your target audience. So my favorite right now, there's two that I go to, but my favorite is a 12-week campaign. I'm a big believer. I like to have an annual goal and break it down into quarterly goals. And then I run hard for 12 weeks. And then I take a week to replan, to reassess what I did, replan, and then I run hard for 12 weeks, right? So I do a 12-week campaign. And what this looks like is I know exactly the companies that I want to be doing outreach to. And it's going to be things like, I want to have my cold outreach, my cold call, my emails, my in-person visits if I'm in market, right? A lot of times I'm not anymore with the scope of what I do. And then you also have networking and referrals as part of this. So I'm going to know what networking groups do I need to be present in that are going to align with where my targeted people are. And I'm going to plan out, when am I going to be participating in those networking events? And then also, how am I going to actually get referred to these people? I'm going to start doing some research and figure out who in my network can introduce me to these people that I want to get in touch with. And then I'm going to plan that work. So that's my cadence. How many times am I going to call somebody, email them, stop in and visit them, try to see them in person at a networking event over a 12-week period of time? That's it. I create a plan.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't follow this anymore because I've done it so long, it's second nature. But if you're just getting started, you should have a call script. Do not read word for word scripting. That is awful. But you should have a call script. You should know exactly what you're going to say. How are you going to hook somebody in, get their attention, and get them to schedule an appointment with you, right? You should know how to do that. You should have emails. For me, when I have a 12-week campaign, there's usually somewhere between 8 to 12 emails they're going to go out. If it's a kind of a light campaign, if I want to go a little more aggressive, I will ratchet that up, maybe go like 12 to 18. But there's an email, and they all build on one another, right?
Exactly. So that's the key. You said that. It's like Netflix. Can we dump that in? A curiosity. Everyone, it just like blah. They want to open the next one, right, Dan? The next one.
Absolutely. And your emails are, here's something. This is a tactical tip here. Don't overthink it. You know, think about how many emails you get, and your prospects are probably getting that or more, right? Because they're getting sold to by you and all of your competitors and everything else they got to deal with, right? So brevity is your friend here. So you have to basically be essential in what you choose to say and edit out all unnecessary words. You know, so right now the subject lines that are converting the best are generally 3 to 5 words. Sentences that are a question convert really well. If you can squeeze in the prospect's name or the company name in that 3 to 5 words, that's really powerful. Really,
How about an emoji too, brother? I'm emoji person, man, when it comes to subject line. All the
so
big dogs do
actually hit really well because they stand out in the inbox, right? If you're scanning a page, you're going to see that yellow emoji or the fire emoji or whatever it might be. You're going to see that. It does stand out and it draws your eyes to it. And that's how you have to be thinking about an inbox. You don't have to be thinking about specifically what you're saying. The first step is you have to think about how are they going to see it? How is it going to stand out across a sea of emails? So things like subject lines that are, you know, bolded or have emojis or are short tend to stand out a little bit better. But that just gets them to open it, right? Like that's, you have to figure out how do you get them to open it. And then once it's in there, it cannot be a long novel. It just can't, right? Like have one thing that you want to get across. The highest converting email right now is a 9-word email.
Bold print too, man. I like colors in my email. I don't know about you, but like blue for me because it's a shark and stuff like that. Videos in it. You're right. Nobody wants to read a 3-paragraph that, you know, you won an award or you got candidates for them.
They don't, man. And
no, they don't care.
Right now is literally like, are you still interested in this, right? And whatever your thing is, right? Like that's simple as that. Are you still looking to hire this position, right? Like it's that simple, you know. And then people will see that. And what's nice about that is if you give them a little bit of information, you're giving them time to process it. The more information you give, the more time they need to process. If people don't have a lot of time, which spoiler alert, nobody does. Everybody's busy and overwhelmed right now. We're all burnt out, you know. So give them a little bit, they'll likely respond, you know? So that's the most powerful way, but that's what a cadence is. But even more important than just having the cadence, it's got to be targeted. You know, you just have to go after a smaller list that are more likely to be your right customer, right? That it's more likely to resonate with the messaging that you're saying. Going back to what we said at the very beginning, retool yourself operationally, figure out what your UVP is, and then work your messaging to sell to that. And you will have much better success in the modern sales system.
I got to tell you, and you're probably right on this, man, and everybody overthinks sales. I mean, for me, 25 is the max I go after, Dan. And once I hire somebody or get a company, then another one. 25 is the max. You can't send 100 companies and try to reach out to 100. You will never know when they call who they are, right?
It's tough, man. You know, it really is tough. And I know that the old adage of you got to, you know, smile and dial like 100 calls a day and all that, like it doesn't work anymore. I mean, at this point, it's literally just a math thing. Like cold calls convert at such a low rate that you trying to go from 100 to 200 calls isn't gonna. You don't have the time for that. And even if you did, you're not gonna have the time to give a prospect the time they deserve. Like if you think about, and this is what blows me away, man. Honestly, and just to get real for a minute, like I get really frustrated when people commoditize the staffing sales process. You know, when they treat prospects like a commodity on the front end, and then they complain about being treated like a commodity, you know, staffing agency on the back end, it's like you did it to yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you just get really real about the value that you can provide and you work to provide immense value to your customers and you only reach out to the best prospects that need that value, that will appreciate that value, and then you give them the time and attention that these people deserve for the amount of money they're going to spend with you, you will be far and away better than any of your competition, you know? And I talk to sales reps all the time and I'm like, do you know what a client's actually worth? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And you know what they do? They're like, well, yeah, this is how much commission I make. I'm like, gosh,
stop the numbers, guys. Please tell them that, Dan. The money comes on the back end, brother.
I'm like, if you minimize a client to the commission that you make, you're commoditizing yourself, right? Like that's just, do not do it. Like these companies that are struggling to hire people, they have great missions out there. They're doing really powerful things in their communities and they need more people, the right people, to be able to carry out their respective missions. And that's where we come in. And if we can partner with them to get them the people they need to help them carry out their mission, that'll be far more valuable. They will send more dollars our way. And I'm like, you know, if you actually ask people, hey, what does your average client spend with you? You know, in a mid-market account, mid-market staffing agency, they might be like, okay, maybe they spend, you know, anywhere from like $4 to $12 million a year. I'm like, okay, and how many years do they stay with you on average? Like, oh, we've got great, client retention. Our clients are with us for, 8 years or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, let's just say they spend 10 million a year and they're with you for 8 years. That's $80 million.
Yeah.
$80 million is actually worth being present during the sales process and not treating it like it's a commodity. And they're like, well, when you put it that way, it's like, gosh, these customers we're doing it to ourselves, man.
We are, you know what, Dan? And this really pisses me off when I see it on the streets here that everybody says, oh, you're another staffing firm. And guess what they do? Oh, I got burnt by one, got burnt. I'm going to tell you, Dan, you probably want to elaborate on this before we wrap things up, is like so many staffing firms out there burn somebody and they try to go back 5 years later. Dude, people don't forget. Companies don't forget. You got one shot to prove that you can really handle them.
Yeah, it's so true, man. And honestly, I wish staffing agencies, if there was one message outside of, retooling your UVP and realigning it to meet the moment of today and better serving your customers, I would say understand that it is exponentially more difficult and more costly to get a new customer than it is to retain and grow an existing one. And prioritize it properly. Once you get the business, work every single day to understand the needs, the changing needs of your customers, and work to deliver on it. And God forbid you ever diverge and you ever their needs no longer align with what you want to do. Let them know. Part ways as friends. Just say, hey, you know what you actually need from an agency no longer aligns with what we want to do. We don't want to be a substandard provider to you. We would like to see you partner with someone that's going to better meet your needs than have us be, mediocre. Just do that, but respect the relationship. And I guarantee if you do that and you have your account managers, your sales reps, or whoever reaching out on a monthly or quarterly basis saying, hey, what's going on in your business? What are the needs that you have from a workforce standpoint? And you start to bring that intel back to your organization and say, hey, this is what our customers are telling they need from us. Then the leaders of the staffing agency can use that information to dynamically revise the UVP as they go along. So it's not going to be this major abrupt shift like most agencies are facing right now. You will actually evolve at the pace of business versus having to face, an extinction level event in order to change and hopefully survive.
Dude, we are on the same page here. Just be kind to your customers, good or bad. I mean, you know what? Like I said, and one thing I will say, Dan, if you can't service a client, tell them that. Just don't run off and get the job order and never come back for a month. I see that happen all the time. They get a job order, sales reps, and they're like, well, we're going to go for the easiest one. We get another company a day later and it's easier. So we'll put the other one in the back burner. I've seen that happen over and over again.
All the time, man. Absolutely. And I will tell you one thing that's really great. And there's 20,000+ staffing agencies in North America, right? There's a lot of us out there. You have competition in your market. What's really cool is I guarantee you there's at least one or two other agencies in your local market that you can collaborate with. You can find somebody and learn who they are. I make recommendations. If I get a client call and I know that I'm not the right fit, I will let them know. And I'll say, hey, I actually know an agency that would probably be better suited to serve you than I would. Can I make an introduction to you, right? And I don't get paid for that. There's no affiliate, affiliate deals for that. I just want to make sure I take care of my customers, and I also want to make sure that I'm not blowing resources trying to serve somebody that I'm not best suited to serve, right? Because that's a waste of resources. And I want to make sure that my team gets the opportunity to work on the stuff that they're best trained for, they're best suited for, and it fires them up. Like, I don't want recruiters to show up and be like, oh God, I got to work with this client today, or I got to work on filling these orders today. Like, man, life is too short to build a culture like that, So, no, sir.
So if we're out there, anybody out there, be kind to everybody, man. Seriously, that's all we can sum up. Dan, before we go, we got some shout outs here, man. Good old Matt.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible to access your 12-week? Yes, it is. So anybody that wants anything from me that I've mentioned, so Matt or anyone else listening to this, just shoot me a DM on LinkedIn and just ask me specifically that, like, hey, can I get your 12-week cadence? And give me an email and I'll get you whatever. That's probably the easiest.
It's free too, right, Dan? Everything's free for you, man, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I will share. Not everything is free, but I will give away a lot of content for free. Valentine, what we got here? Yeah. That's man, you got to tune in. Like, LCM was a game changer for me when I heard Mike share that at the sales summit. He's going to break it down even further. He's got a playbook that he gives out for the people that attend his sessions that is, man, you want to talk about a lot of value for free? That dude, like the playbook he gives out to the people that attend his sessions, it's insane. It's like word for word. Like it's almost copy and paste, but you got to modify it to your agency and brand a little bit. But yeah, that's a big one.
Yep, Valentine, LCM works. Trust me, I've done it for 5 years and I love it, man. It's the best thing in the world. And here we go. Shout out to Kelly.
Wow. Yes, let's say 2-8. Sorry, congratulations.
Yeah. Let's give her a shout out. Good job, Kelly.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, Kelly, happy to chat. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. We can set up a time to chat. Congratulations. It is not easy to start an agency, and God bless you for starting it when you did, because that was a pretty.
I got silver in my hair, man. You'll get a little silver.
Yeah, no, for real. This industry will do it to you. But yeah, congratulations on that. We'd love to chat with you if there's anything I can do to help on your journey.
Awesome. We're going to get a shout out to the sponsorship here. Here we go. Advanced Partners. They put the fun, F-U-N, in funding. If you need funding, you need to call Advanced Partners.
Hey, I love that, man. I want to give a personal shout out to them as well. I've known Advanced for a long time. They were one of the first companies that I worked with in this industry nearly 2 decades ago. And they've really done some pretty incredible things, especially even since the time they were acquired by Paychex. But I've been working closely with Kendra Cato and Mike over there. And it's just, man, they are really good people. And when I talked to Mike Brew, and if you didn't catch his interview on Staffing Monthly a couple months ago, it's worth going back and look at. But he is really knowledgeable about this industry, and they are an open book. Like, they have so much exposure to staffing that when they sit down and talk to you, it's not all about just funding. It's about, hey, this is how you can look at your business, or this is what's going on in the market. And they have so much knowledge to share. They've been an amazing partner, not just for this, but in kind of everything. I know the summit coming up as well. They've been fantastic. So my hat's off to them.
They're amazing. I mean, I've been with me for 2 years now, and I love all of them. They're like family. And you know what? They even have a marketing division now. They help out companies with marketing now. So I mean, they're like that one shop and all. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, I love it, man. Kendra she's been actually really good. Like, she will see if there's something we're doing, like the summit or whatever, that knows other people in her network that will get value out of it. Like, she's like, hey, I want to connect you, because she understands the value of relationships in this industry. And there's probably not many people better than her for being kind of that.
Oh no, she's
broker,
awesome.
Being an ambassador to the staffing industry.
She'll be my co-host again for the tailgate, the Staffing World tailgate. That whole week we have. Oh man, she's the best.
Man, that's going to be fun. Hey, can I give two more shout outs?
No, go for it, brother.
Awesome. So for anybody that likes this kind of content, and you actually want a deep dive into creating demand for your services, yes, it is possible. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to be joining David Stearns and Haley Marketing on their Lunch with Haley. It is a sequel to the session we did a couple months ago. I'm going to be there with Mark Winter and Tom Erb, and the four of us are literally going to be breaking down what staffing agencies need to do to increase the demand for your services and start to combat this declining demand for staffing in general. It is going to be filled with a ton of content. So tomorrow at, I think we're 2 p.m. Eastern, but Haley Marketing, definitely check that out. And as I mentioned, Staffing Sales Summit Encore event, free to attend. It's July 8th. And then for those of you that really want to have a workshop style, roll up your sleeves workshop style for the modern staffing sales system, come join me at Aviante Connect in August in Minneapolis. I'm going to be there leading a workshop there to show people exactly how they have to build this, how they set their cadences up, literally with playbooks, scripts. I even have a slide that talks exactly about what the ideal week for a sales development rep looks like, down to all the time blocks scheduled in the whole nine. So if you really want to learn more about that, definitely connect with me. But there's some events I'm going to be coming up and sharing what I know about this industry and what I know about sales.
Love it, man. And I'll be in Connect too, buddy, doing some videos, interviews, and everything like that. So connect with me and Dan, and Shark will be there. And before we get out of here, one big thing, if you guys can, QR code this, definitely join my YouTube channel here, because I have people like this, superstars like Dan and everybody else in the industry. My whole goal with this platform is to make everybody shine. That's the bottom line. It's not about me. It's about you, Dan, and everybody else.
Takes a lot of work to make me shine, man. So good on you.
Hey, brother, man. Hey, thank you so much for coming on, man. I'll see you soon, buddy.
Appreciate you, Shark.
All right, buddy. That's a wrap. We'll see ya.